Good evening, everyone. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy here on today's Tax Talk. The Pandora Papers. Is that propaganda or is it something we should all be concerned about? Let's find out. Uh-oh. Secrets of the wealthy. I don't really think they're secrets. I think that they've been, they're going around and telling us all things that we already know. One of the things that we know is that there's some states, trust laws are state laws. So every state has different laws as it pertains to trusts. And if I'm trying to form a trust to protect my money, and that's what it's about passing it on and protecting my money from liabilities and others and making sure it goes where I want it to go after I pass. That makes sense, to have a trust, estate and trust planning to make sure that the money goes where you want it to go. You can choose whatever state you want to form your trust. And it's much like corporations. You'll notice that many corporations are in Delaware or now Nevada. Why is that? Because they formed laws that are that help corporations, that are in their favor. And so many corporations incorporate in Delaware for that very reason. They choose the best laws that they want to use to form their companies. Same thing here with trusts. You can form a trust in New York. New York has some good laws. But there's many now that are objecting to states like South Dakota. So let's talk a little bit about that, because this Pandora program or project is kind of the ProPublica. Remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's longer than that now, where they revealed the wealthiest Americans and their tax returns. They leaked them to this ProPublica organization, and then they left them out to the public. Nobody objected as strenuously as I think they should have that that this is illegal, right? For the IRS, and I don't know where they came from. Nobody will say where they come from, but we know that the IRS has all those. Where else would a group of the wealthiest Americans' tax returns be gathered? Well, the logical conclusion is they were gathered at the IRS. And so if they were leaked, they were probably, again, I don't know, but they were probably leaked by someone from the IRS. And we should probably have an investigation to find that out. But we don't. As far as I know, there is no ongoing investigation to find out who leaked those tax records to the public in violation of the law. Nobody seems to care about that. Now that the IRS wants to gather all of our financial records from our banks, well, shouldn't we be worried about whether they're going to be confidential or held our privacy protected? Or is it going to be leaked whenever it seems advantageous to a political party? And that's what my fear is. But let's talk about this. Let's look at some of the reporting on this. So Pandora Papers shines light on the U.S. tax shelters for the wealthy. When the rich want to hide their money, one way of doing it is opening up accounts in certain U.S. states. And, again, these are investigative reporters that are this to me, and I've been, well, let me, before we go into the story anymore. If you've been following me at all, you know that I've been screaming from the rooftops about the three boogeymen that the IRS has been trying to expose in order to get these bills passed, this legislation passed in Congress. One is tax gap, right? So the tax gap is the difference between what the IRS thinks they should collect and what the IRS actually does collect. And that difference is a tax gap. And so they've been telling us that that might be as high as $1 trillion a year. And this might pay for all of the programs. If they just crack down on those scofflaws who aren't paying their fair share, it would pay for everything. And we don't have to raise taxes on anybody. Just collect the taxes that are due. Another one is the wealthiest Americans. And, they're not paying their fair share. They're avoiding all their taxes. And we should tax them more. And I think this was part of that ProPublica reveal, was these tax returns to show that they're not paying enough taxes. Although when they revealed them, they didn't really talk about nobody was accused of tax evasion or not paying their taxes as the law requires. What they compared it to, they showed their wealth. And then they said, well, here's how much. And then they divided that wealth by how much their taxes were and came up with a number that's lower than what you and I pay in our taxes. And so they use that as proof that they're not paying their fair share. I think it was disingenuous to use that parameter in order to show that, because we don't tax wealth. In America, we tax it when you sell something, you're taxed on it. When you hold something and it gains value, you don't pay taxes on the gain in value until you sell the asset. Makes sense as far as I know. Again, there's a difference. There's a difference in philosophy from many of these sides, is that those that believe that all money belongs to the government and anything they don't get, either they're giving to you or you're stealing it from them. And then there's those who believe that all the wealth belongs to the people and the government should use it sparingly in order to pay what's necessary. Okay, so I wonder what side I'm on. Okay, so that was pretty, okay. So, but again, I think that's propaganda, not what I was saying, although that might say that too. But it's propaganda to. Now the third one, and I wanted to point this out, right, is the tax gap, the wealthy, and cryptocurrency, and the exchanges for cryptocurrency. These are the three boogeymen that they've been highlighting for the last year. In order, at least since January, in order to support the legislation that's being passed. I know that I won't be able to boost this post because Facebook and others don't allow that, and I understand that, but I want you to understand that too. Okay, so let's go back to the story. The investigative journalism project, the Pandora Papers, shows South Dakota, Florida, Delaware, Texas, and Nevada offer tax shelters for the wealthy. They allow them to set up a shop through their state under their laws without disclosing who the true owners are. If you don't even know who owns the asset, then it's difficult to find out where that money came from. Now, again, is it their responsibility to tell us where the money came from? Is it really the public's business where the money came from? Those calling for a change say secretive banking doesn't just allow the rich to dodge taxes. It could also allow criminal activity to be hidden. So again, our Fourth Amendment, you have to have probable cause to allege a criminal activity and then go after records based on criminal activity. But to say it could be used for criminal activity, a car could be used for criminal. Everything that we have can be used for criminal activity. Thornton said many wealthy Americans likely were not implicated in the Pandora Papers because loopholes in the U.S. tax code already allow them to legally shield most of their wealth. Shield it. They've already paid tax on it. Who are they shielding it from? From the I don't know who they would be. Not from the IRS. The IRS knows where the money is. They've already paid taxes on it. If the tax rules are changed to those loopholes that are closed, then they won't be able to avail themselves legally of those kinds of practices. Yes, it's true. If you outlaw a practice, then if you continue with that practice, then it would be a crime. But as we sit here today, it is not a crime. And it should not be. Should it be a crime? I don't believe it should be a crime. White House Press Secretary Psaki said President Biden supports reforms. Well, this goes to the propaganda. Is this propaganda? Are they just telling us this because it supports their narrative? And, we should change the laws in every state. The federal government doesn't have the right to do that, right? Oh, the states have their own laws, and they have every right under the 10th Amendment to legislate their own rules. And that's what they do. And so I don't know who would be objecting to that, except for this propaganda to say, then we call them loopholes. When you're following the tax laws in America, then they call those loopholes. Also, I wanted to point out that again, if it's not illegal, it's not really a loophole. Okay, so Congress passed the Corporate Transparency Act, and as a result, new banking transparency rules are expected later this year. But critics say those changes alone won't solve the problem. Which critics are those? ProPublica? I want to point out that who exactly, these are investigative journalists that uncovered this. All you had to do is call a trust attorney and say, hey, we're the best place to open a trust. What states would you go to? And they would tell you all this because that's what they study and they know this. And that makes sense, doesn't it? The next, there's a couple other stories that are very similar to this story. One on CBS here. I think I can get rid of this. And CBS, they want me to subscribe. I'm not yet subscribed. Over 300 of the world's rich and powerful identified in Pandora Papers report on hiding assets. They are not hiding assets. They're there. Everybody, how else would they find them? They have trusts that are legal. These are totally legal. Offshore tax havens have long been a refuge for wealthy individuals trying to hide assets. Now, states like South Dakota, Nevada, and others have also become magnets for those dodging taxes. They're not dodging taxes. If you mean going to places that are tax friendly, so if you move out of Illinois to avoid the property tax because you don't like is that a dodge? Are you dodging taxes? Or are you simply moving to a state that has better tax laws as you see it? That's not a dodge. I mean, I guess you can characterize it as a dodge. That's according to the Pandora Papers, a collection of these journalists that are getting together. Biggest tax havens in the U.S., South Dakota, says Pandora Papers investigation. Again, so this is the big story, that there's states that have beneficial laws for those who have money to start a trust. A trust is a separate entity, much like a corporation, much like, this is instead of a will. Wills are not necessarily a good way to pass your assets along. Many of this, and when they say it's a tax dodge, they're also talking about the step up in basis. So they've tried to pass this in the new law. The step up in basis is when somebody in your family passes and leaves you something. When you take possession of that property, you take your basis is at the value at the time that you take possession of them. So let me give you an example. I'm not going to use my mom, but somebody's mom passes and she has a building and it's worth $500,000. She bought it many, many years ago for $100,000. If she were to sell it, there'd be a capital gain of $400,000. If when she passes and then that goes to her heirs, they take that property at $500,000. So are they dodging $400,000 for taxes? Of course, it wouldn't be a $400,000 tax. It would be tax on $400,000. By taking it at the basis of $500,000, are they dodging that? If they didn't get to step up the basis when they took possession when mom died, they would have to report $400,000 in capital gains. How would they get the money to pay those capital gains? They'd have to sell the asset. And this is what the problem is with these rules when it comes to business owners, when it comes to farms, right? So many business owners don't have And they're changing a lot of these rules even before you die. So when they're lowering the capital or increasing the capital gains tax and lowering the minimum, which is what's on the table now. So if I have a business and I don't start a 401k, or I don't have any retirement account because I'm taking all my money from the business and plowing it back in the business, trying to make the business grow like most small business people do. One day they hope to sell that business. And when they sell that business, now they'll be faced with these capital gains, and the government will come in and take around a third of what is left. So now they're not getting their retirement. It's being taxed, and they're losing their retirement. So we're disenfranchising small business people, and we're discouraging people from starting their own business. And that's what makes America great, in my opinion. Anyway, that's what I think. So, there's another story about the IRS not answering telephone calls. We'll get to that maybe tomorrow. But in the meantime, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask you to, now remember, if you're having, this show is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Open Tax Advocates. If you're facing IRS problems and you need help, the best thing to do, the first thing you should do, get a copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. I'm the author, and I'll give you a copy for free. Go to freeirsbook.com. Again, freeirsbook.com. Get yourself a copy of my book. Be happy to give it to you. Okay, so remember to like and share this information, this video, and I'd very much appreciate it. Like it on Facebook, share it, or subscribe on YouTube. If you subscribe on YouTube, put something in the comments, and I'll reply to the comment. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time, and let me see if I can get together our outro. Again, thanks so much, and we'll see you again tomorrow.